Hello and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. Now here are the stories making headlines beyond the continent. U.S. President Donald Trump has set a deadline for the release of all hostages from Gaza, demanding that they be freed by Saturday at noon. He warned that if the hostages are not released by then, he would call for the cancellation of the Israel-Hamas ceasefire. Trump described Hamas' threat to delay further exchanges as terrible and stated that if all hostages aren't returned by the deadline, all hell would break out. The president also mentioned the possibility of withholding U.S. aid to allies like Jordan and Egypt if they refuse to accept Palestinians under his controversial plan for Gaza. Trump plans to discuss the timeline with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned Hamas that Israel will resume intense fighting in Gaza if hostages are not returned by Saturday noon. Netanyahu's statement came after a meeting with his security cabinet. He vowed that the IDF will resume fighting until Hamas is decisively defeated if the hostages are not returned. The ultimatum raises tensions in the region, threatening to derail the fragile ceasefire agreement reached in January. The international community is watching the situation closely, urging restraint from both sides.
ההחלטה שהעברתי בקבינט פה אחד היא זאת: אם חמאס לא יחזיר את חטופינו עד שבת בצהריים, הפסקת האש תיפסק וצה"ל יחזור ללחימה עצימה עד להכרעה סופית של החמאס.
Jordan's King Abdullah II has concluded a closed-door meeting with President Donald Trump at the White House amidst rising tensions over a proposed plan to relocate 2 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Jordan and Egypt. Both Jordan and Egypt have expressed strong opposition to the plan, which has been endorsed by Israel's leadership. King Abdullah II stated that Egypt will present a counter-plan to work with the U.S. on the Gaza proposal. President Trump is open to considering Egypt's plan.
What do you think about the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip? Do you want to see the U.S. own the Gaza Strip?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, the president is looking at Egypt coming to present their plan. As I said, we will be in Saudi Arabia to discuss how we can work with the president and with the United States. So I think let's wait until the Egyptians can come and present it to the president and not get ahead of ourselves.
And is there
For more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Haken. Afia, once again, welcome back. We would like to know what the latest from the meeting with King Abdullah and President Donald Trump has been.
Well, Mazino, when we spoke earlier on today, we were not expecting that press conference where we saw the two of them there in the room with the delegation from Jordan. That press conference, or where the pool reporters are allowed into the room to have a few questions with both dignitaries, was only called about an hour before it happened. So what we're kind of seeing there is diplomacy in real time on both sides. So you saw King Abdullah II there being asked about Trump's proposal to quote-unquote buy Gaza, to be able to redevelop it. He's doubled down on that yet again. King Abdullah saying it's something that will be talked about. Trump in that press conference, like I said, doubling down, saying they won't need to buy Gaza because it will just be given to the United States. He was asked if he himself will want to develop real estate there. He said no, he's done that, but now that he's president, he has got more power to do more. He keeps saying that the Palestinian people won't want to go back there because they will have other places to be, but other countries in the Middle East will be able to be in possession of land there as well. So those are the lines that we had from that press conference, and the meeting between the two of them then continued after this impromptu press conference.
Indeed, it does. Meanwhile, the ceasefire in Gaza is under immense strain, isn't it?
It absolutely is. So yesterday we had Hamas saying that they weren't going to release the rest of the hostages because they are saying that Israel is still shooting some of the hostages, not letting them back to their homes and not providing caravans for them, not letting them come into Gaza because so many people's homes have been destroyed. And therefore Hamas have said now that they will not be releasing the hostages that was supposed to be released on this coming Saturday. Now, in response to that, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has taken up on Trump's declaration of noon on Saturday and said that if the hostages are not released by this time, then the ceasefire will be null and void and intense bombing will happen in the region. Now, what's not clear is if Benjamin Netanyahu is referring to the 3 hostages that were supposed to be released this Saturday, or all the remaining hostages that are part of this ceasefire deal. So there were 62 that were supposed to be released in this phase of the ceasefire. Not all of them have been released. I think there's maybe about 9 left. And so it's whether he's referring to 3 hostages or the 9 hostages, that's what we don't know. But Prime Minister Netanyahu took up the mantle that Donald Trump gave out yesterday, which was noon on Saturday, that if the hostages are not released by then, as Donald Trump put it, all bets are off.
And what has been the reaction to Hamas withholding the release of hostages?
Well, the families obviously are terrified. You know, they've been on such a roller coaster over the past 15 months. The hostages have been part of ceasefire deals, and you never know which hostages are going to be released. And we know that some of them have passed away, and so the families are waiting for their bodies to be released, essentially. And they've been gathering in Tel Aviv and Hostage Square and are very, very concerned. And obviously people in Gaza are very concerned as well at the prospect that the war could continue from Saturday onwards. And Prime Minister Netanyahu made it very clear that it will be intense shelling as well. So there's a lot of fear on both sides here of how this will play out throughout the week. But there is no doubt that President Trump's intervention, if that is the right word, has certainly emboldened Prime Minister Netanyahu. Now, with the firm backing of the United States, at this point, sort of feels like he can do what he wants. And that is what we are seeing in real time.
Definitely, Trump's influence is far-reaching, as we can see. And personally, I'm enjoying this season of America, if you ask me. Thank you very much.
I am not.
Thank you very much, Afia. Well, we can't wait to come back to you for more updates next time. Thank you indeed. Now we're on a short break, and when we return, Trump floats possibility of Ukraine becoming part of Russia. This and more after this timeout. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Donald Trump has celebrated the news that the Gulf of Mexico is now labeled the Gulf of America on Google Maps after he signed an executive order to rename it. It comes after he signed a proclamation declaring 9 February 2025 the first ever Gulf of America Day, having claimed the Gulf is run by cartels and it's ours. Users in Mexico will still see the name Gulf of Mexico, and users elsewhere in the world will see both names. For News Central international correspondent Afia Hagen has more on this.
A major geographical name change is making waves both online and on official maps. The Gulf of Mexico, as it's been known for centuries, is now listed as the Gulf of America for US-based users of Google Maps. The change follows an executive order signed by President Donald Trump, officially renaming the body of water. Google says it follows a policy of updating names in accordance with official government sources. In a statement, the company explained people using maps in the US will see Gulf of America, and people in Mexico will see Gulf of Mexico. Everyone else will see both names. But that's not the only controversial change. The same executive order also calls for restoring the name Mount McKinley to the nation's highest peak. Back in 2015, former President Barack Obama renamed the mountain Denali, honouring the name long used by Alaska's indigenous communities. Trump's order argues that the change back to Mount McKinley recognizes the late president's contributions to American prosperity. However, as of today, Google Maps has not yet updated the mountain's name. Meanwhile, federal agencies are making adjustments. The Federal Aviation Administration announced it's updating charts and navigation data to reflect the new names. The U.S. Coast Guard has also begun incorporating the Gulf of America designation in its official communications. The renaming efforts are part of Trump's broader initiative to, quote, honor American greatness. But the changes have sparked debate. Some see it as a patriotic move, whilst others call it unnecessary and politically driven. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
Almost 200 Venezuelan men deported from the United States arrived at the Macritia Airport, North Caracas, Venezuela, in two Convacias plane. Now, the men were returned as part of an ongoing repatriation effort between the two countries. Venezuela's Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello addressed the arrival, rejecting claims that the deportees all had criminal records, labeling such assertions as false. He added that it was up to the U.S. authorities to decide whether additional flights would be scheduled to repatriate more Venezuelan citizens. The government in Caracas expressed readiness to continue accepting these deportations, signaling an openness to further cooperation on the matter. The flight's arrival follows a broader trend of increasing deportations between the U.S. and Venezuela amid strained diplomatic relations.
Migración, consulta médica, psicológica, revisarlo, entrevista para hacer el expediente de cada uno, como lo trataron allá. Ustedes escucharon, bien por la familia, que dejaron allá, nos separaron allá. Y hoy los estamos tratando de reunir. Muy jóvenes.
Pero más o menos.
Entre 20 y 30 para abajo. Depende de ellos allá. Nosotros estamos listos para mandar estos aviones cada vez que ellos estén dispuestos.
Solo hombre,
ahorita puro hombre.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday made good on a promise to slap 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, stepping up a long-promised trade war despite warnings from Europe and China. Trump also signaled that he would look at imposing additional tariffs on automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and computer chips. Canada and Mexico, which Trump has already threatened with tariffs, are the biggest steel importers to the United States, according to U.S. trade data. Brazil and South Korea are also major steel providers. The U.S. leader also confirmed that he was considering an exemption for Australia from the steel tariffs. Trump imposed sweeping tariffs during his 2017 to 2021 presidency to protect U.S. industries, which he believed faced unfair competition from Asian and European countries.
Today I'm simplifying our tariffs on steel and aluminum so that everyone can understand exactly what it means. It's 25% without exceptions or exemptions, and that's all countries, no matter where it comes from, all countries. If made in the United States, however, United States of America, there is no tariff, zero. So if it's made in the United States, there is no tariff. All you have to do is make it in the United States. We don't need it from another country.
In a recent interview with Fox News, U.S. President Donald Trump suggested that Ukraine may potentially become part of Russia in the future. When discussing the ongoing conflict between Moscow and Kiev, Trump stated that Ukraine may make a deal with Russia or it may not. He added that Ukraine may become Russian someday or it may not. This comment has sparked concerns about the potential implications for Ukraine's sovereignty and the ongoing conflict.
Hundreds of billions of dollars, and you know, they may make a deal, they may not make a deal, they may be Russian someday or they may not be Russian someday, but we're going to have all this money in there, and I say I want it back. And I told them that I want the equivalent, like 500 worth of rare earth, and they've essentially agreed to do that. So at least we don't feel stupid. Otherwise we're stupid. I said to them, we have to get something. We can't continue to pay this money.
And now we head to Europe, where French Minister of Education Elisabeth Borne says police are working to apprehend the perpetrator of the terrible murder of an 11-year-old schoolgirl named Louise. Police have arrested a man in his 20s on suspicion of murder after Louise was found stabbed to death in the Essonne region south of Paris in the night of Friday to Saturday in a killing that sparked shock and a massive search for clues.
Vous savez qu'on a mis en place des dispositifs de soutien, d'accompagnement à la fois pour les élèves et pour les enseignants qui sont mis en place hier et qui seront maintenus aussi longtemps que nécessaire. Il y a évidemment beaucoup d'inquiétudes et je pense que tant qu'on n'a pas arrêté le coupable, il y aura de l'inquiétude chez les parents et donc il y a un travail qui se fait avec la municipalité. À la fois, nous avons déployé des équipes mobiles de sécurité dans l'établissement et puis il y a naturellement le travail qui se fait avec la police municipale, avec la police nationale pour rassurer les parents le temps qu'on puisse arrêter le coupable de ce terrible.
Now, Germany's center-left Chancellor Olaf Scholz and opposition leader Friedrich Merz engaged in a heated exchange in parliament ahead of the February 23 elections. Scholz defended his government's approach to security and European law, cautioning that false claims of disorder could undermine the EU framework. Merz responded by sharply criticizing Scholz and Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck, describing them as executives who had mismanaged the country's affairs. The clash underscores the stark difference between the ruling coalition and the opposition, with both leaders outlining their competing visions for Germany's future. Security and economic issues emerged as center points of contention in the final debate before voters head to the polls.
Wenn wir uns jetzt allerdings trotz sinkender Asylzahlen darauf berufen, dass Sicherheit und Ordnung in Deutschland außer Kontrolle seien und wir deshalb europäisches Recht nicht anwenden müssten, dann werden andere Länder dieses Scheinargument ganz genauso benutzen, abgesehen davon, dass es vor Gerichten nicht Bestand hat. Dann wird künftig jedes Land für sich entscheiden, ob es ihm gerade passt, europäisches Recht anzuwenden oder nicht. Das wäre nicht nur das Ende des europäischen Binnenmarkts, das wäre der Anfang vom Ende der Europäischen Union als Rechtsgemeinschaft, von der niemand so sehr profitiert wie wir in Deutschland.
Fortsetzung anbieten. Wissen Sie, wie Sie mir vorkommen, Sie beide, Herr Habeck und Herr Scholz, wie zwei angestellte Geschäftsführer, die das Unternehmen vor die Wand gefahren haben, anschließend zu den Eigentümern gehen und sagen, wir würden das jetzt gerne noch mal 4 Jahre so weitermachen. So kommen Sie mir vor.
School staff in Paris have gone on strike and taken to the streets to protest the planned closure of 198 classes for the upcoming school year. The move is part of a broader restructuring effort that also eliminates a special exemption system for administrative relief for principals. According to union officials, 60% of teachers are participating in a strike, resulting in the closure of 170 schools. The protesters are calling on authorities to reconsider the closures, citing concerns about the impact on students and the already strained education system.
Ouverture de classe. À Paris, aujourd'hui, on a 110 suppressions de postes pour la rentrée prochaine. Ça s'ajoute aux près de 300 postes qui ont déjà été supprimés ces 2 dernières années. Donc Paris paye vraiment un lourd tribut sur l'austérité budgétaire et la suppression des postes d'enseignants. Ça se traduit cette année par 198 fermetures de classes, ce qui aboutirait en septembre à 500 suppressions de classes en quelques 3 ans. Donc c'est vraiment énorme.
Ça va très bien pour eux dans l'Académie de Paris. Vous savez qu'on va arriver à des chiffres de 50% de scolarisation des élèves en école privée. Donc nous, c'est un crève-cœur, c'est-à-dire qu'on se retrouve à défendre ce qui nous semble être l'école, le premier choix pour les parents d'élèves, qui est l'école publique, avec tout ce que ça entend en termes d'intégration, de projets politiques, de projets pour la République, et de le voir année après année. On parle à peu près, je n'ai pas les chiffres exacts, mais on est pas loin de 500 classes fermées depuis les 3 dernières années, et ça devient insupportable.
The World Government Summit, an annual event held annually to discuss key issues facing governments worldwide, such as economic development, innovation, technology, sustainability and governance, opened on Tuesday in Dubai, the UAE. Now, in his address, Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, described artificial intelligence as a systemic technology that affects all aspects of society. He stressed that AI's widespread influence makes it essential for governments to play an active role in shaping the technology's rules and norms. Schwab's comments underscores the need for global coordination in addressing AI's impact, particularly as it continues to evolve and reshape industries, economies, and governance structures. The summit, which brings together leaders from around the world, is expected to explore key policy changes around AI and its integration into various sectors.
AI is an enabling, it's a systemic technology. So it penetrates everything what we are doing. So governments have a big responsibility, particularly also, as I mentioned, in shaping the necessary norms and rules. Here, artificial intelligence can actually help us very much, because artificial intelligence can provide us with the capability to digest. If I take a pot, it can help me to deal with this very exponential change.
In Asia, campaigning has begun in the Philippines for crucial midterm elections that could shape the country's political landscape. I beg your pardon. Now, the polls are seen as a bellwether for the new presidential race and will also determine the future of impeached Vice President Sara Duterte. The elections will take place on May 8th, with over 18,000 positions up for grabs, including half of the Senate seats. The outcome is expected to have significant implications for the country's politics and governance.
Siyempre, unang-una, yung may napatunayan na, tapos honest. Yan. Yan yung mga kailangan natin ngayon sa bansa natin. Kasi ang dami-dami nang lumalabas na balitang corruption sa politika natin.
Definitely, malaking bagay yan sa panahon ng eleksyon. Kaya kinakailangan yung kung matutuloy man yung impeachment bago mag-eleksyon, kinakailangan walang yung hindi partisan, hindi kasi although impeachment is a political process, di ba? Huwag abusuhin, huwag gamitin para sa pamumulitika. Dapat may mga plataforma dun sa mga tunay na problema ng bayan, katulad ng kahirapan, kawalan ng trabaho, lumalalang peace and order situation.
And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Now, do remember you can watch New Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.